Hello and welcome back to the another episode of Daily News Analysis for UPSC 2025. It is 9th August today and we are going to discuss these six important articles which were in the newspaper today, which I think are the most relevant for your examination or for your preparation. You know, every day we upload two videos on this YouTube channel. In the first one, we discuss the current news analysis. We discuss the most important articles which are relevant for your exam. And in the evening or night session, we upload another video in which we discuss the daily quiz. We discuss the questions related to the current affairs so that it will give you the idea how the questions could come from the current affairs, and also it will help you revise your current affairs. And also we discuss few previous year questions in that daily quiz session so that it will give you the proper idea how the questions do come in the exam, and you will develop the skill by, or you it will help you develop the skill, or develop the methodology by which you can solve those questions in the exam. So before we start our discussion today, I would like to request to you guys, please do subscribe the channel and share it with your friends so that they may also get benefited from this initiative. you know when you subscribe, it gives us the energy, it motivates us to work more hard on this and give you the best information possible. So without any further delay, let's look at the articles which we have discussed today. There was not much in the newspaper today, only a few articles which I thought are very much necessary to be discussed. There were a few other articles, some were related to the food inflation. We had taken those articles many times, and with respect to Bangladesh, how the newly interim government has been appointed there. So that is not to be discussed. We are discussing these topics many times. So we had discussed those articles many times in the past. Now, what I thought, I had brought up the most relevant articles which I think that are very much important to be discussed. And by discussing these articles, it will definitely pile up your information rather than beating around the bush. Daily discussing a similar articles does not help you in any way. We have to take up different articles every day, so that the aim is to pile up our preparation. Now let's look at the articles today. The first one, Waqf bill, it goes to the joint parliamentary committee after a debate in Lok Sabha. It was introduced yesterday in the Lok Sabha. We will discuss about it. After this, we will discuss about the instability in the neighborhood, which is a concern, says the CDS, Chief Defense Security. After that, we will discuss about the case, a petition which the Supreme Court rejected about the equivalent qualification for government jobs, who can make this decision. After that, we will discuss about some smaller articles like Kerala to invest in knowledge-based sectors, and then we will discuss about the news from the UP where they had decided to reactivate the anti-Romeo squad, and finally about the viral encephalitis outbreak in Gujarat. Now, start our discussion by our first article, Waqf bill, as it goes to the joint parliamentary committee. You know, Here we have to discuss about the Waqf Amendment Bill 2024, which was introduced in the Lok Sabha yesterday. It is going to amend the Waqf Act of 1995. You know, in this, before we go in detail about why it went to the JPC, we have to understand few things. We should know about few things. What Waqf is, you know it many about the Waqf, we should know it manages the assets of the Muslim personalities. Muslim personalities, Muslim personals, they donate their assets to Waqf board and they manage it for the charity purpose or other purposes which they seem necessary. There were many contradictory things in that Waqf Act which the government felt necessary to give it to go for an amendment, as it is said that in the 1995 Waqf Act there are provisions that are above the provisions of the Indian Constitution. For example, there was a provision, if anything which is decided by the Waqf tribunal, that cannot be challenged in the Supreme Court. For example, if there is a case of a land acquisition by the Waqf board, and if the tribunal gives it in the favor of Waqf board, then that case can't be challenged in the Supreme Court. So there were few issues with respect to the Waqf board, which were with respect to the Waqf Act of 1995, which were important to be amended, for which the amendment was brought in. In this in the amendment of the Waqf Amendment Bill 2024, it has proposed at least 40 amendments, and there were few amendments which got into the which did not go well with the opposition, and there was huge discussion over it. And finally, after the 2.5 hour discussion, it was sent for the joint parliamentary committee. So let's look at few of the amendments which the Waqf Act has brought in, and which was the point of concern for the opposition. For example, this amendment bill, it introduced the inclusion of 2 Muslim women and 2 non-Muslim members on the board, on the Waqf board. And the most contradictory thing in this was the 2 non-Muslim members on the Waqf board, and it did not went well with the opposition, because you know they said that what is the need of adding 2 non-Muslims into the Waqf board, which is the authority of the Muslims. So there was no need of that. If we bring such laws, it will be like we are trying to interfere into the matters of the Muslims. We are interfering in the minority religion, so it was not necessary. And also there another amendment which they had brought in was about the district collector to decide if a property is Waqf or government land. Earlier it was decided by the Waqf tribunal. So in this it is said that if the district collector, he would be biased, then his decisions would be based on his personal choices, and it can impact the working of the Waqf board. So there are few other decisions, few other amendments with this which were under the challenge. For example, representation of women. Also in the council there should be 3 ministries, 2 from Lok Sabha and 1 from Raj Sabha. District collector will take up the disputes of the land, and also they have to bring up the database whatever the property they have, and they have to show the purpose, if they gain any profit, and they have to show it to the government on which they are spending it. So these things did not the opposition right now, or the common people, or the Muslim community, it did not go well. These amendments did not go well with the majority of the Muslims, because they think that it is like interfering in our personal matters. And they said that if there are another boards of different religions, and would they allow that Muslims will interfere into their matters, into their personal matters. So it feels like it is the violation of violation of the fundamental rights, violation of article 25, 26, 27. So with respect to that, there was huge discussion in the parliament yesterday, and so it went to the joint parliamentary committee. I hope this is what was necessary to be understood in this article. It was introduced by the Union Ministry Affairs of Union Minority Affairs Ministry. They introduced it in the Lok Sabha. Yesterday we discussed it. They might introduce it in the Raj Sabha, but they had introduced it in the Lok Sabha, and we discussed what are the controversial changes which were brought in this amendment. For example, 2 non-Muslim members to be in as the board members, which can affect the working of the board, and it may go against the it may seem to go against the working of the minorities. And also with respect to this, the opposition called it as an attack on the constitution, while they said that it is like interfering with the religious matters and against the spirit of the federalism. So this was about the Waqf bill, which went to the joint parliamentary committee. Let us have a little recap of it, what we discussed in this. Let's try to break it down in a more simplified manner. Yesterday this bill was introduced in the Lok Sabha, to amend Waqf Act of 1995. You know, what does Waqf board do? It manages the assets which are donated by the Muslim personals. In the Waqf Amendment Bill 2024, more than 40 amendments were proposed. Initially, the first amendment was with respect to the name itself and many others. The Union Minority Affairs Ministry introduced it in the Lok Sabha. It was, as we discussed yesterday, it was said that it might be introduced in the Raj Sabha, but they introduced it in Lok Sabha, and there was huge discussion in the parliament itself, in the Lok Sabha itself, and because of few of the controversial changes which the government is about to bring in by this amendment. What are those controversial changes? The major two are: first one, two non-Muslim members to be the members of the board, and this did not went well with the opposition, and also the district collector to decide if a property is Waqf or government land rather than the Waqf tribunal. So these things did not went well with the opposition, and they blamed it. They said that right now the government is interfering in the personal matters of the minority religions, and it is against the spirit of the federalism. So with respect to that, the decision was to send it to the JPC. This decision came after a 2-hour debate in the Lok Sabha. So this was about this Waqf bill. I hope you understood. I hope I delivered the most important information what was necessary, and this much which was in the newspaper today. Going forward to the another article of today's discussion, it talks about the instability in India's neighborhood is a concern right now. It is the chief defense security. He said that if the instability in our neighborhood, it does concern our country, because we are seeing right now the Bangladesh issue, the instability there, the crisis there, that may transmit to the instability in our neighborhood, especially in Bangladesh right now. We are seeing how the government was toppled there, how we had seen some cases of crimes against minorities. That does not go well with us. That won't go well with us, because as a country we need to be a safe country, to be a developing country, to be the country who believes in peace and prosperity. We need our neighbors to be very much stable. Right now, if we look at our country and our neighbors from the west, we have Pakistan, which has been always a headache to us. We are fighting a proxy war since 1947 in the Jammu and Kashmir region. Right now, we had discussed how they had changed their approach also from the Kashmir region towards the Pir Panjal Jammu region, as they find it safer there for their militants to attack our country. So we had discussed about that, how it is impacting our security, and also from the border issues with the China, how there are security lapses, how there was voidness in the Jammu because of the border issues in China. We have to take our security there. So that left space for the Pakistani sponsored militants to attack in Kashmir region, in Jammu region. So this right now the proxy war with the Pakistan, the prolonged border issue with the China, and right now the another issue which has came up, that of the Bangladesh, the instability in the Bangladesh. It may also lead to many criminal activities, and it may show its effects in our country also. So this instability is not good for us. And right now, if we will see our other neighboring countries, they are not also stable. For example, Myanmar, they are going through a civil war since many years now. And if we will give an overall look to our neighbors, we don't find any stable country right now, and it does have a worse impact on our country itself. So in this situation also, if we will look globally, right now the world is in the most violent phase of existence after World War II. We are seeing there is a Russia-Ukraine war, the impact of Russia-Ukraine war on the overall world. We are seeing the war in the Middle East, West Asia, how Gaza is being violated by the Israel. You know how there are human rights violation, the impact of Gaza war on the oil prices. So there, the world is uh, in a violent place right now. After World War, this situation has happened after a long time, and right now, for us to maintain the strategic autonomy, we cannot depend on what the article here tries tries to say. What the author here tries to say, that right now, if we will look at the condition of the world and the condition of our country itself, we cannot depend on the imports of fighting, on the foreign imports for fighting wars. We have to develop our our domestic industry, our domestic defense industry. So India's quest for indigenization is central for maintaining the strategic autonomy. We have to develop our domestic industry to maintain this strategic autonomy. Otherwise, if we will depend, right now in this situation we will depend on other countries for arms and defense, then it will definitely have a worse impact on our country itself. It will have worse impact on our strategic autonomy. So for that, we have to invest in our domestic industry and develop our defense industry by ourselves. We have to go for the indigenization of domestic industry. So this is the core concept here, that while our neighbors are in worse condition, there is instability in our neighborhood, we can we can be in direct confrontation with any country anytime because of the conditions, especially with Pakistan or China. So right now, we can't afford that we depend on the imports of the fighting. We cannot depend on the foreign imports of the for fighting wars. We need to develop our own industry, our own domestic industry of defense, on which we will depend on, so which will reduce our dependency on defense and other materials. So this is the core concept behind this article. This is what the chief of defense security was trying to say here, that right now it is the proper time for us to develop our indigenized industries for defense, by which we should depend upon them rather than depending upon the foreign countries, other countries, so that when they will import the arms in our country, then only we can fight the war. That would not go good with our strategic autonomy, that would not go good with our foreign policy. We need to have this indigenization of defense industry by ourselves. We should be capable of exporting these materials rather than depending upon the imports itself. So this was the core concept of this article. Now moving forward, another article, it talks about the only states can take a decision on equivalent qualifications for government jobs, says Supreme Court. You know, in 2009, there was a candidate, uh, and what she did, she applied for a government post. And the government post demanded that a person should be graduate in the she should have a person should have the BSc in chemistry. But this candidate, she had BSc in polymer chemistry and B.Ed in physical science. You know, she applied for the exam, and she cleared the written exam conducted by the Kerala Public Service Commission. But unfortunately for her, she was not called for the interview. Her candidature was rejected. She asked for the reason. What was the reason for that? The reason given by the JKP, by the Kerala Public Service Commission, was that the qualification she had was not the qualification what they demanded for. They demanded for BSc chemistry, but they are having she was having the BSc in polymer chemistry. But according to her, that BSc in polymer chemistry is equivalent to BSc in chemistry in the college she studied. And she went to the high court, and then finally to the Supreme Court. And Supreme Court gave its decision. The case, she went to the Supreme Court. She said that I had this qualification, and this is equivalent to the qualification which the uh, Kerala government wanted, but they are not allowing me. They did not interview me. They rejected me. With respect that the Supreme Court said that as a Supreme Court we don't have any authority here to declare which qualification is equivalent to the qualification what the state governments want. It is only up to the state governments to decide which qualification is necessary for any government job. So Supreme Court, what they did, they rejected her her plea. They rejected it, and they finally they gave the direct answer that Supreme Court, they dismissed job aspirants appeal, and said that courts cannot tinker with qualifications necessary for government jobs. It is the sole, they said that it is the sole priority of this of the state governments, and judicial review can neither expand the ambit of the prescribed qualifications nor decide the equivalence of the prescribed qualifications. It is up to this state governments itself. The verdict followed, and we discussed why we this verdict, it was followed by an appeal by a disqualified candidate for the post of the high school assistant in physical science in Kerala. So with respect to that, we discussed it. I hope you understood it. What इन दिस सिंपल टर्म में ये याद रखना है कि स्टेट सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बताया कि जो क्वालिफिकेशन अगर किसी जॉब के लिए ज़रूरत होती है, दैट इज़ डिसाइडेड बाय द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट इटसेल्फ रादर देन वी हैव टू डू एनीथिंग विद दैट कि फलानी क्वालिफिकेशन इक्वल है इस क्वालिफिकेशन के लिए. सो दिस वाज अबाउट दिस आर्टिकल. Now going to the another article, we have these small articles to discuss right now. It is about the Kerala to invest in knowledge-based sectors. Kerala Industries Minister said that the state is looking to attract investments in knowledge-based sectors that create employment for locals. The purpose, what is the purpose for that? The purpose is to provide white-collar and high-paying jobs to our youth rather than going for low skilled jobs. That's why they are going for the investment in knowledge sector. This it was in a this decision, this proclamation was done in a meeting. This meeting was organized by the Kerala State's Industrial Development Corporation and the Confederation of Indian Industry. And also the Kerala ministry also decided that Kerala has come up with a campus industrial park project which aims to utilize lands of higher education institutions that is lying unused to state campus industrial parks. So in it the Kerala government came up with a campus industrial park project which aims to utilize the lands of higher education institutions, so which are those lands which are lying unused, that would be used by these industrial park projects. So this was the update from the Kerala with respect to the knowledge based sectors, how they are going to invest in knowledge based sectors. Moving forward, here we have another article, very small article. It talks about the anti-Romeo squad. Recently it was in the newspaper that UP government, they are going to reactivate anti-Romeo squad, to provide security to women and curb the harassment which the women face. But this this does not go well with the money people in the country, because we had seen how it was misused by money authorities. It was misused by the people, and actually they were harassing those people who were those couples who were with each other by their consent, and they harassed them. So this is the point of discussion. Let's see how does it go with the UP, and how does people act to it, how does the people react to it. And also there was an update from the Mumbai that the news article was like the new age weather watchers attract a large following with timely updates and social media. In it was a small article. It was shown that the updates from the Indian Meteorological Department are still relied upon by the most citizens, but the trend has started to change now, as as you know, the trend is shifting towards independent weather watchers who provide timely updates on the social media, and the examples were given of the Mumbai rains and Mumbai now cost, as they are being followed by the people. They are the private sectors. Privately they do this rain predictions privately, and people had started to trust them more, and they are shifting from the IMD, Indian Meteorological Department, towards those private private organizations, or private people towards these private people who give these updates. This was also small article which I think you should know about. And finally, here we have the last article of today's discussion. It talks about the viral encephalitis outbreak. We had discussed this article many times in this analysis itself. This is the viral encephalitis outbreak in Gujarat. We had seen more than 70 people have died because of this disease. It is very, you know, in this disease the mortality rate is very low, very high. Usually 50% people die because of this disease if it is not curbed at the initial stage. What happens in this disease, that it leads to the brain inflammation, and finally the patient dies because of the inflation of the brain, and this leads to the other impacts, of the body, and finally patient dies. This viral encephalitis, it is you know its severity is due to the Chandipora virus, which was noted in the Gujarat cases. So this was about this small article in the newspaper today. I hope you understood these articles. Please do write in the comments if I do need to bring any changes in my teaching style. So this was it for today, and let's give a final look what we discussed today. The first article which we discussed, it was about the Waqf bill, as it goes to the Joint Parliamentary Committee after a debate in the Lok Sabha. This Waqf Amendment Bill 2024 was introduced yesterday in the Lok Sabha, and there are some controversial amendments which the government has decided to bring in, and they are going to, now it is going to the Joint Parliamentary Committee. Few of the controversial amendments were two non-Muslim members to be added on the board, and also district collector to decide if a property is waqf or government land. So with respect to that, there was huge discussion, and the opposition, they called it an attack on the constitution, interfering with the religious matters and against the spirit of the federalism. So now it will go to the Joint Parliamentary Committee, and they will, then after it will, the fate of this bill will be decided. After this, we discussed about the instability in India's neighborhood is a concern, says the chief of defense security. We had seen right now the Bangladesh issue, the instability in Bangladesh, as the government was toppled there. Sheikh Hasina fled away from her country, and the situation in the country, damage of the public property and the crimes against the minorities. Right now, India can't afford another Pakistan in the east, and we also are fighting against Pakistan, a proxy war in Jammu and Kashmir, and also border issues with China. So right now we need the stable, we can't afford instability, and also in this instability we can't depend upon the foreign imports of the defense equipments. So for that we need to invest in the indigenization of the defense industry. So this was all about this article. After that, we discussed about the Supreme Court's judgment, where they said that only the state can take a decision on equivalent qualification for government employments. It was said by the Supreme Court. It was a Supreme Court. In this, the Supreme Court dismissed job aspirants' appeal and said courts cannot tinker with qualifications necessary for government jobs. They said that it is the sole priority of the state government. After that, we discussed about the Kerala to invest in knowledge-based sectors to provide white-collar and high-paying jobs to our youth. After that, we discussed about the UP to reactivate anti-Romeo squads to check harassment and provide security to women and curb harassment. And finally, we discussed about the viral encephalitis outbreak. As we had seen, Gujarat is going through it, and it is the worst outbreak. Is due to this worst outbreak is due to the Chandipura virus, and it leads to the brain inflammation and finally the death of the people. So death of the infected persons. So this was about today's discussion. I hope you would like the video and I hope you would share it with your friends. Thank you for staying with me. Thank you very much.